Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me, as always, is my illustrious chat moderator and producer, DJ Martinez. DJ, welcome back to the program. Thanks a lot for doing this with me on a twice-a-week basis. It's time for another couple hours of not-so-fun, I'm sure.
Not so fun. That is how you described the show to me when you pitched it, and it's lived up to the hype.
I was like, who wouldn't want not so fun? And I promised you that in your contract. You signed a thing that was like, look, you better deliver the not so fun.
Yeah, that was in the job description.
That's
not so fun deliverer.
Exactly. Absolutely right. DJ, before we get into the lead-in topic and such tonight, I want to lead right away. Welcome, everybody. Thanks a lot for being here. I want to open right away. I want to throw a volley out there with a rant. Can I just go right into rant territory?
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Have you looked at the new YouTube update for the app on your phone?
For the app or for the, studio app?
Well, yeah, there's the two apps. You got the studio app and you have the regular app that everybody looks at, whether they've got a YouTube channel that they're posting to or not. But I'm talking about that in particular. And this doesn't affect you as much with your particular channel, DJ, as a content creator, because you haven't done as much live. But I'm a little bit nervous about the way it's split up the tabs now. Have you looked very closely at this?
I've noticed that, yes. It has a videos like normal, but it also has a live tab, which divides everything up. Kind of like it's been in the studio for a while, but now it's just customer facing.
It's nice in the studio to have it split up that way. The problem with it it makes sense in theory, right? Where you've got, and I think they did it mostly because of shorts, actually, because shorts were blended in with everything else you were posting, and it was really annoying as a viewer to go through and as somebody trying to consume the channel's content, let's say somebody is posting a lot of shorts and a lot of regular videos, and they're all in different aspect ratios, and you might not care about the shorts, and it's almost like a totally different platform, right? And it sort of is, because it's YouTube trying to compete with TikTok, so they're like, well, we've got this other totally different sort of thing that's about something else entirely. So I think people were complaining about that. I know that was irritating me. Part of the reason I quit making shorts regularly, because I tried it for a couple of weeks, but it was gumming up all the rest of my content, and people were having to wade through those to look at other things. It was hurting view counts, it was hurting subscriber counts, so quit doing it. And now it's all split up. But it has a unintended adverse effect, I think, DJ, which is if you post primarily live or only live, you look like your channel's dead.
Yeah, I noticed that because I went to your channel for some reason recently. I was trying to find out. I was trying to organize the Captain Logan show streams, thumbnails that I've been making, and I was going to look and see the right order. And I went to videos, and I was like, Cap's Thoughts. So this was like months ago.
It looks like we haven't posted anything in 9 months if you don't know that we're regularly live streaming. And I got more worried about it when I realized that people, like regular viewers and people that work with us, were confused. Austin sends me a message. He's like, hey, your live videos aren't showing up. And I said, oh, there's a tab for it now. And he clicked over to the tab and he went, oh, I'm an idiot. And I'm like, I don't think you are. I think it's confusing. And people aren't going to, with a channel especially they're not familiar with, it's going to look like you've stagnated and like you're just not making content anymore. They're not going to think to jump over to shorts or live and be like, oh, here's this other thing you do. So a couple of big criticisms about the layout for me, and I hope enough people complain that they change it. I think either there needs to be, because I think if memory serves, in the studio app you still have this where there's one tab that's just uploads, and everything you've posted in any kind of format is all together. I think so that's in the back end. I think on the front end with just the normal app, everybody ought to be able to see that, and it should be the first tab, and then it's split up after that. And then I think you should be able to customize the home tab. And I don't think it's as bad on desktop, but most people use devices now looking at YouTube. So I think it needs to be set up, DJ, so that the content creator on the home tab can set it to put up whatever types of videos are most being made, or just everything you've got if that's what you want. But I should be able to set it up so that you see all my most recent live videos. And I'm not just complaining about this as a content creator. It confused me with a couple of channels I watch that do like half and half live content and pre-made content, where it makes your channel look kind of bad because it looks like you haven't posted all that often, even if you do a hodgepodge of both, like a lot of channels do. We're almost 100% live right now. And anyway, so I just wanted to rant about that because it's driving me crazy, and I wanted to know from folks in the audience if that has been confusing, and if you've gone over to our channel or any other channels and been like, hey, wait a minute. And also, when you click on just the video tab, it suddenly puts like a highlight on videos that, like, I would much rather other things be the stuff that people are most seeing right now. Like, I'm getting suddenly a little bit of a view spike on random videos I made 9 months ago, just because that's the first thing you see when you jump over there. Yeah, so I'm not real happy about that.
Yeah, I wish you could just reorganizing the tabs would be a simple fix for that. They gave you the ability to do that.
But when was the last time YouTube was that customizable? Like, when I started.
I don't know.
It used to be more customizable. You used to be able to even put in, like, your own backgrounds and stuff at the beginning.
I remember those days.
It makes a lot of sense to still have that now, but when everything was, almost entirely on desktop. But I wanted to lead with that and see if I'm out on a limb on this, or if other people are irked about that. I'm a little bit worried about it, and it hasn't messed too much so far, I don't think, with view counts for us, but I think it might make it more difficult to grow, and like we haven't had a big subscriber spike in a long time anyway. But I do kind of worry, like, people still find, random videos that we'll put out through keyword searches and stuff, and I don't want them to watch a video and then come over to our channel and be like, oh, they don't post. It'd be kind of unfortunate. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get into the lead-in topic after I do my normal beginning spiel and say, hello, welcome to the Captain Logan Show. If it's your first time here, we really appreciate you joining us both live, and if you're doing it after the fact, tonight is going to be finally an episode of Geekvolution After Dark. We're going to broadcast right after this for the patrons, and if you're not currently a patron, but you are interested in hanging out with us after the show for our fun, wacky, even more not-so-fun sort of after the show, it's patreon.com/geekvolution. Just the $2 tier gets you access to that, and I'll put out a link about 15 minutes after we finish here for the new show. And tonight I'm going to be, if all works out okay, if we don't have any technical issues, I'm gonna play a little bit of Sonic Frontiers, which I just bought and I've only played the first 15 or 20 minutes of, and I'm already really happy with what it looks like and how the controls are. And frankly, I'm being self-indulgent. I just want to keep playing it, but I thought it might be fun, since we've been doing the silly Sonic High School thing, if we read a chapter of that and then went into Sonic Frontiers. And I might do a Cap Can't Play sometime next week on that as well, but you'll get some of my first impressions of it while we're talking about whatever ends up coming up under the sun. Austin and Brandon will be there with me as well, and if that doesn't work out, if I can't get it set up quick enough, because sometimes it takes a minute with my capture card, we'll just do a regular show. But anyway, so once again, you guys are great for being here. We're going to do an Ask Me Anything show after the lead-in topic. We're going to revisit the death of movie theaters, or the supposed death of movie theaters, and talk a little bit about some recent comments by Steven Spielberg related to that. And then after that, whatever you guys want to talk about, or we can keep the discussion about that going. It's completely up to you. I'm already seeing lots of super chats, and so we'll try not to shaft the regular comments. Somebody complained in the comments before we got started that we didn't do enough of those last time. We'll see if we can knock out at least 3 or 4 through the show, and we can keep the show going for a couple of hours if you guys are interested and so inclined in making that happen. If you want to make sure that your question or comment is discussed on air, you can leave a super chat in any dollar amount, and we will guarantee that we acknowledge it and discuss it. But you can also leave a regular comment and make sure that you tag DJ Martinez, or he's not as likely to see it, and he's the guy that pays attention to all of that, and I just look mostly at the camera, and then occasionally over here when I have to read things. But mostly my attention is on my own face because I'm so vain. I think this show is about me. But you can tag DJ Martinez at DJ Martinez at The Welder, or at also so vain he thinks the show is about him.
No, I'm always looking at my second monitor over here pretty much the whole time.
But what he's not telling you is that's where he can see his camera. DJ, I'm really excited about next week because I'm going to come hang out at your house.
I know. We're going to have some company at the Martinez Manor, and it's going to be Mr. Logan himself.
The Martinez Manor. I'm going to pack some slightly more higher quality dress-up clothes than I had planned on after hearing that.
Only suits only.
Oh man, okay. He's like, really, we just don't want to have to look at your tattoos. But yeah, we're gonna have a lot of fun. We're gonna do some broadcasting while I'm there. We're gonna do a special episode of Superhero Rewind Unscripted and count down our top 10 favorite soundtracks, scores from superhero movies. And guys, I'll check back in with you in a couple days, but at the moment, because that's going to be in the middle of the week, I'm actually thinking about not doing the Black Panther review on Monday like I had originally intended, and maybe putting this off another week so I have a little bit more time with it. I have done my first watch for it, but over the weekend, I've got to review the new one, and I would have to take all my notes the same day we review that, and I'm not really sure that I want to do that. It's going to be a lot to deal with in one day, and I think the review might be better if I put it off a week and spend a little more time on it. On the other hand, I'm going to have to work on it immediately after getting off an airplane going the other way. So I haven't decided yet. There may be a show Monday. There might not be. I'll try to make up my mind in the next day or two and let everybody know about that. Well, I'll say this. I'll probably do some sort of show on Monday, but it may or may not be Rewind. At the moment, I'm kind of on the fence. I kind of just want to play it by ear. It's a really big week for us. Tomorrow night, we're going to be doing the Weird Al documentary review. I wish that should come out. We're going to do a review of the biopic parody movie, which I've seen once. I'm going to watch it again tomorrow night right before the review. It's going to be one of the biggest panels we've ever had. It's going to be really fun. We're going to do that around 10 o'clock Central Time. We're doing our screening late enough that it's going to cut it kind of close, so we might be 15-20 minutes past 10, but it'll be a late evening show, like early night, late evening kind of show. And then Sunday afternoon, we're going to be talking about Wakanda Forever, which I'm going to see tomorrow night. Today is my son Freddie's birthday.
Happy birthday, Freddie.
8 today, and he might be coming down during the show to say hello to everybody sometime in the next half hour, 45 minutes. So we'll go ahead and try to get through the lead-in topic, and then we might be talking to Freddie. If you have any questions for my son Freddie, feel free to throw those in, and I'm sure DJ can archive those for you, and we'll have a few at the ready when Freddie comes down. Freddie. Thanks, DJ. I didn't even tell DJ about this. I never give him the heads up on anything. It's always
I gotta play fast and loose. I gotta be quick on my toes for the show.
DJ, Steven Spielberg is not happy with HBO Max, and this...
Join the club.
Yeah, and this makes... Well, I don't think it's because of the Discovery merger so much as things that happen. It's like, I'm just imagining Spielberg, finding out about the Discovery merger going, oh man, I'm really worried I'm not going to get to watch Dexter's Laboratory anymore. I really don't think that's so much what he's concerned about. But, I'm going to read some of his comments. We'll discuss. I really want DJ's 2 cents on this, and I'm going to try not to be too broken record with things that we've talked about in the past, because this is definitely a revisiting. DJ and I have given our 2 cents numerous times now about where we think the movie industry is going and how inevitable some of what has been happening with movie theaters might have been. I think we've been mostly in agreement on it, but we'll revisit all of that while we talk about this. But before I get to it, I just want to mention that I think it's really interesting, DJ, that these comments come out right after the launch that we talked about on Tuesday, that Spielberg had with Nolan and James Gunn, because everybody immediately jumped on that and went, oh, does it mean that those guys are going to be making superhero movies? And I don't want to be all conspiracy theorist or whatever, but just because three guys sit down and have lunch together that are in the movie industry doesn't mean that they're talking about potential projects. The timing, right after James Gunn getting the head position for DC Studios, is certainly telling, but it could be telling for a different reason, DJ. Is it possible that part of the reason they were meeting was because maybe they have already, for whatever reason, something of a good relationship with Gunn, or he was just a guy that they wanted to meet after he got with Marvel, or after he got with, pardon me, with Warner Brothers, and just sort of like talk out the issues with Warner's and vent a little bit and see if Gunn can maybe like help swing things back around more to the direction they wish things would go. I mean, think about it. Like, these are both guys that don't like how difficult it is for anything that's not a blockbuster to do well in a movie theater right now. Like, Spielberg and Nolan are talking to Gunn, who is a guy who's gone on record and said he doesn't need everything he makes to go to a movie theater. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, I have no idea what that conversation would have been like. That's an interesting thought. If only we were a fly on the wall. There's got to be someone who was there. Like, if you were there and you saw all three of them, wouldn't you like turn your phone on and record it? Not that that's okay or like polite, but I feel like anyone who saw that would.
There's like whoever's waiting tables, like, turns on a phone recorder in his pocket and stands there an uncomfortably long time, just hoping that they won't notice that he's there.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and read some of this article. So this is from Variety. Steven Spielberg says, streamers like HBO Max threw my best filmmaker friends under the bus. Steven Spielberg, pardon me, in a new interview with the New York Times. So this is not an exclusive, DJ. This is originally from the New York Times. Said that streaming services have thrown filmmakers under the bus by unceremoniously dumping high-profile new releases on streaming and not in theaters. The Oscar winner was referring to Warner Brothers' decision to release all of its 2021 film slate on both HBO Max and in theaters on the same day. The pandemic, he says, created an opportunity for streaming platformers to raise their subscriptions to record-breaking levels, and also throw some of my best filmmaker friends under the bus, as their movies were unceremoniously not given theatrical releases. They were paid off, and the films were suddenly relegated to, in this case, HBO Max, the case I'm talking about. And then everything started to change. He says, I think older audiences were relieved that they didn't have to step on sticky popcorn, but I really believe those same older audiences, once they got into the theater, the magic of being in a social situation with a bunch of strangers is a tonic. It's up to the movies to be good enough to get all the audiences to say that to each other when the lights come back up. Spielberg cited Baz Luhrmann's Elvis as one movie that gave him hope for the future of adult skewing movies at the box office. The director said there's no question, and I think when he says adult, he means like more sophisticated, not just ride kinds of films, like the way Scorsese described Marvel movies. There's no question that the big sequels and movies from Marvel, DC, and Pixar, and some of the animated movies and horror films, are you just going to keep going? You're just going to keep throwing more genres out? Still have a place in society, given their box office returns. Elvis, with its $151 million domestic gross, proved adult fare still has a fighting chance. You know, as long as it's got, like, name recognition and it's about somebody a lot of people still care about. I found it encouraging, that was me talking, I found it encouraging that Elvis broke $100 million at the domestic box office, Spielberg said. A lot of older people went to see that film, and that gave me hope that people were starting to come back to the movies as the pandemic becomes an epidemic. I think movies are going to come back, I really do. While the pandemic did not fully change Spielberg's commitment to theatrical, he did admit to the Times that it has at least gotten him to more openly consider the value of a potential move toward a streaming-only release. He says, I made the post as a political statement about our times. that's not even a movie I knew about, by reflecting the Nixon administration, and we thought that was an important reflection for a lot of people to understand what was happening to our country. I don't know if I had been given that script post-pandemic, whether I would have preferred to have made that film for Apple or Netflix and gone out to millions of people, because the film had something to say to millions of people, and we were never going to get those millions of people into enough theaters to make that kind of difference. Things have changed enough to get me to say that to you. So I appreciate how open-minded he is about that, DJ, even as he is lamenting the financial issues with and just, you know, getting things in front of people. Like, he's thoughtful about it. But here's the part of it that I feel like a lot of these guys aren't talking about. It's really easy to dismiss this kind of discourse with, you know, we've talked about this with Scorsese, we've talked about this with Nolan, and say these are older guys living in another time who aren't seeing which way the wind is blowing, and just wishing that, trying to figure out a way to hold on to simpler times, or what they're nostalgic for, or the kind of experience that they want people to continue having, that it's inevitable that it's going away. The thing that we're not discussing, though, is that I don't think the issue is so much there's no place for the movie theater going experience anymore, so much as just the way the money is made, and more so, the way we think about the success of a movie is maybe outmoded. When he says, you know, I might have considered putting that movie out on streaming so that millions of people could see it because we couldn't get them to go all in the movie theater, but why do they all have to see it in a theater? Why can't we just have a why can't we just have a method by which it's possible to go to the theater if you want to, but we're not measuring the success of the movie by box office. Like, this worked really well when physical media was the main way that people were watching movies if they didn't go to the theater, because you had to directly give your money to a store that bought the movie directly from the people. You see what I'm saying? That like made the thing, and that was all a lot more measurable than the streaming thing is. There's got to be a way to kind of have our cake and eat it too on this.
Kill all the streaming services. I don't know. That's what's doing it. I mean, that's literally what Disney tried to do. They tried to charge people for premieres, and everyone rioted, and they stopped doing that very, very quickly.
Well, it's because they were charging too much, right? I mean, that was really the issue. Nobody complains when movies come out on digital and you can pay $20 to buy it, or you can pay, you know, kind of a premium fee, X number of dollars, $6, $8, whatever, to rent it, and then it gets cheaper when it gets older, and will drop down, especially on Amazon, to like, you know, a $3 or $4 rental. And maybe this is like kind of a pipe dream, or I'm not living in the real world when I say this, but I had kind of, and this is the reason I wanted to bring this up, I had kind of an epiphany about this today, and I thought, I think we're in sort of the same place with movies as we are with comics, where we're just using an outdated method of getting the returns in the first place and measuring the success of it. We still kind of measure the success of comics in single issues sold. That's absurd. Most people buy them in trade. Why can't we have, and I don't mean HBO when I say this, why can't we have something more akin to a home box office? You know, why can't we do both at the same time? Why can't things come out at the same time on digital as they do in the theater, and you can choose to go to the theater or to stay home, but it all goes together. We count it all the same. And like all that money goes together, the numbers would be different. It wouldn't be about making $1 billion at the box office anymore, because it's not fair, it's not right to charge a whole family $20 to stay home and watch something. So like the numbers would be very, very different, obviously. I mean, there would be growing pains, it would be a big giant change. But I don't think the answer is streaming services. I think, like, more and more I'm starting to think, and I subscribe to some streaming services, I'm starting to consider dropping most of them, because I don't like how splintered they are, and I've talked about this, I don't like how much money per month I have to pay for those. It starts to look like even more than a cable subscription. You can't even really cord cut anymore. Like, it's getting kind of preposterous. It was fine, it was good, I liked it a lot when I was only paying for 2 or 3 of them, but then I didn't expect anything brand new to go on those services. That's the difference. Is like back in the day, and it's been long enough now I can say it like that. I, something would come out brand new, and I would still go buy it physical. And then eventually it might go to streaming, or you'd get some TV shows that went to streaming. But movies, like I still, went out and bought, or I would pay digitally to rent them. It'd be really nice if we had a uniformity like you do with movie theaters, where you get like a wide release digital thing where it all comes out at the same time, and people can choose, and they might be on different platforms, but you have to pay a la carte for brand new things that come out, and that all goes in a pot, and then it's measurable how successful movies are. And also, part of the problem is things get buried in streaming services. Things come out, and the very next week, everybody's forgotten about them. Nobody knows what any of that is. If we were paying attention to streaming box office the way we pay attention to theater box office, you'd hear more about movies that you might be interested in going to see. There's so many examples right now of things that come out. People find out about them 6-8 months later and go, well, I would have gone and seen that, or I would have bought it right away if only I'd known it was out. But it's much harder to keep track of everything now, and part of it's because there's so much coming out, and part of it is because there's too many streaming services. It's buried in them. If you have to pay for a subscription to watch a thing as opposed to just renting it like we used to at Blockbuster and stuff, it's harder to pay attention to everything, especially if you don't have that service. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. That's what I think maybe the answer is. And I'm sure people are going to give comments and tell me why that's impossible. And maybe it is impossible. But I'm racking my brain trying to figure out how to solve this problem, because what we have right now is like a disaster.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to win. I don't know if theaters or streaming is going to win, or if they're both just going to go down in a flaming inferno together and then crash the industry. I don't know, but I definitely don't want theaters to go away. I hope they make it through the streaming virus.
George Red says box office is what keeps the lights on for movies with a theatrical release, when physical media is more niche now, because most people would rent it at home and then theaters are dead. That is why simultaneous rental, streaming, and theater releases are a bad idea. The masses are inherently favorable of convenience. When you can rent the movie at home instead of planning the day around going at the theater, most will pick the former. But they're doing that anyway. And I've said this before, but DJ, I just feel like it's already inevitable that the pandemic just made it happen a little bit faster. But like the idea that we were all obviously already on our way to a place where most people that are going to the theater are only for the big major blockbuster things that they can only see that way, and that some of us still have it in our heads we need to see it huge because it was meant to be seen that way, right? At some point, and I don't mean to be cynical about it, but at some point that was going to happen. For me, the priority shouldn't be about saving movie theaters, because as sad as it is, I think you're going to get to a place where you have a few and it's a novelty. I think it shouldn't be about saving movie theaters. It should be about making it possible for filmmakers to get their movies seen. Like, in general.
Yeah, but how, like, I don't understand, like, so you want like a pay-per-view thing, but all of the movie companies have to all agree and have like one service. How does everything not get lost when all the movies are on one service there? How is it different than a streaming service?
Well, I just think, I mean, you already have most things going to Amazon, right? Like, I guess what I'm saying is, I think what would potentially help is if we weren't, and I might be completely off my rocker on this, so I'm just spitballing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if part of the problem isn't right now, you have a lot of movies being made like specifically for streaming services that not everybody is paying for, and that eventually people might not be able to still get access to if the streaming service goes under, or if it didn't do well enough that the streaming service decides to get rid of it. Like, some of this is also about film preservation too. And so it doesn't have to be one place, DJ, but I wish there was a uniformity like there is with movie theaters, that if it gets a wide release, it goes into theaters. There's a system for that. I wish there was a system for this, is what I'm saying. It wouldn't have to be in one place in the same way that you don't have to have one chain of movie theaters.
Okay. Yeah, I was just talking about your point earlier about things getting lost on because there's so many different streaming services, things get lost. Then if
Yeah,
there's
but
a bunch of different home box office, then things would still be so spread out and dispersed.
and
I
you're
don't
still
know.
going to have that problem to some degree, but I'm telling you, I think it's less if it's not under a subscription model. I just think potentially that's part of the problem. As far as Spielberg's comments about the HBO Max like throwing filmmakers under the bus and that kind of thing. Boy, I see both sides to that. Like, and it's weird that he's just coming out and talking about this now because a lot of people were complaining about that as it was happening, and I
Hmm.
think even Nolan weighed in on that. But
Yeah.
you know, on one side, it's like they didn't talk closely. They didn't talk enough with the actual filmmakers themselves
Hmm.
and and get everybody's 2 cents before they did that. On the other hand, um, they were losing money on a monthly basis on all these movies they couldn't put out in the theater, and it's not like theaters were open when they did it. I mean, the best they possibly could have done is once theaters started opening up again, like they could have shut down their whole plan because they decided to do it for that entire year, not knowing when theaters were going to open up again. But like whether you believe this or not, part of the rhetoric, part of the argument that Warner's made for doing that was we've got to find a way to recoup some of these costs and to keep our lights on. So, like I said, I can kind of see both sides to it. And when he says like that led people too much to being used to not going to the theater and it's changed things. Like I said, it was going to change things. Like I agree with him on that. On the other hand, I still say it was inevitable. Would it have taken 3 or 5 or 10 more years if the pandemic had never happened? I don't know, but I think it was going to happen anyway. We were just really clearly already on our way there. What do you think, DJ?
People in the chat are talking. Alex Barron says, very true. He was responding to the masses are inherently Hold on. Someone said that filmmakers want their movies to be seen in theaters. That was Mutali. Then Alex Barron said, very true. Shots are composed to be seen on a big screen. Sound is mixed to be heard in a theater. It removes some of the artistry of filmmaking if everything is streaming.
Yeah, and I guess I'm starting to go toward the dark side a little bit with that because that was like it is true, and I still, as I've said before, would like to see that option there. But what's happening now is a lot of filmmakers are having a really difficult time getting their movies made because the only and getting people to notice them because they don't have the theater option because theaters are being a lot more selective about what they're keeping for very long, and in, and people aren't going to see a lot of movies that aren't these huge giant blockbusters initially in the movie theater, of course. And I just don't think that that's going to change. I don't think there's anything you can do to stop that train. It was more of a problem years ago when TVs were smaller, when the standard aspect ratio for home viewing was 4:3, when you couldn't get surround sound. So like yes, there are things that I think it is unfortunate if you don't go see in the theater in the first place. To some degree. On the other hand, there are a lot of people that just don't care anymore and that haven't been raised in movie theaters. And it's like it's maybe kind of sad, but again, I just think that it's inevitable. And I'm getting to the point where the things that I have to see that way, that list is getting smaller and smaller. Like I have nice ways at home to watch stuff. I wish I'd gone and seen Top Gun in the theater, I guess, because that's the new Top Gun movie because that is a theatrical experience, and it's a thrilling movie where I was like, I bet this is probably cooler in the theater, but I wasn't watching it on a tiny screen either. Like I still had a good experience with it. It still felt enough I was watching it on a large screen. I had surround sound. It felt enough like a theatrical experience that I feel like I've experienced it. You know what I mean? So like it's more of a novelty to me now, just with the situation I'm in. But I feel like a lot of people have that now. Home theaters are not so unusual anymore. Like a lot of people, and whatever you want to call a home theater, a lot of people have nice big TV screens. A lot of people like you and I, DJ, have projectors and projector screens. I don't think it's ever going to be as important to people, and we have a whole generation of kids growing up who don't even care a lot of them as much about movies as we did when we were growing up. And so I just think making the stuff accessible and making it possible for filmmakers to make money and look like they're making money is more important than that they're in a theater. And I know the argument that a lot of people like to bring up now too is going to a theater used to be fun, but now there's no etiquette, so I don't want to be there. Like that part of it always comes up.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm thankful that I have not had as many horror stories as some of the people in this community that talk about it. Insane, the stuff that people do. But I guess I don't go at like peak hours when there's a full theater, so I wouldn't experience that kind of stuff. But sounds horrible. Sounds infuriating.
Well, and I guess it's just we're in a place now where people are much more used to doing everything entertainment-wise on their own, and I don't like that. I don't like. So don't get me wrong. This is not me going like I can't wait for movie theaters to die, but I have to admit that I'm in a place where I don't have to go as much, and it's not as big of a deal to me. But it bothers me that it's messing with. That it's compromising movies and it's messing with creativity, and I would much rather see artists be able to make the movie they want to make than everything go to the theater. I just think that's more important.
Yeah, that's my thing. Is like I have a theater in my house now, but it's still a very different experience going to a theater. It's not just because the size or how it sounds or anything, but it's just a different experience to get dressed and go meet your friends and like have a community experience, have a place to go and do an event than just everyone sitting in their houses by themselves, which is a bummer. And I don't want to get to a point where we're like that. I want kids to grow up and be able to take their girlfriends to movie theaters and have experiences instead of just sitting home alone. It's more of that. It's more about that than just because I have a screen that's 100 inches and I have surround sound. It's comparable, but it's still not the same thing.
That's fair.
It's a different activity.
Yeah, call me cynical. You're absolutely right. It is a different activity, and it's never, unless I find the right theater, I guess, it's never going to be the activity that it was when I was in high school again. Is my thing. You go to like a regular chain theater now, and the kinds of commercials and trailers that you have to sit through before the movie starts are like almost make it not worth going to me a lot of the time, where it's irritating, and they're advertising things that I not only don't want to see, but I don't want to see any pieces of. And you'll have annoying like content, like YouTube content creators that are like talking before the movie starts now, and that kind of thing. Like I don't want to have to sit through all that. Like it's obnoxious, and it goes on too long. Like you go to see a movie at 7:00, and your movie starts about 7:25, and you've had to sit through like a Clockwork Orange torture like section before you actually watch the film that you came to see. I don't like the experience, not just the horror stories, DJ, of people that come and like are rude and talk through the movie, or spill things, or are gross or whatever, but also just, and again, call me cynical, like I hate the experience of and this isn't me saying everybody's got to think like me. It's just I don't mean to say that I'm a naysayer more often, but I guess I just mean like I guess I enjoy movies at the theater much less often than I used to, and then a lot of the people that I go with seem to. So I'll sit through a movie that I absolutely loathed, and then I have to like listen to everybody applaud it at the end. God, I hate that. Like, I just hate that feeling where it's like, I had this terrible time, but everybody here really enjoyed it. And, like, I guess I'm glad they did, but, like, I'd have much rather sat at home and had a miserable time than be with a bunch of people that enjoyed it, and I'm the one going, ugh, you know what I mean? Like, I hate that feeling. That's no fun. And I guess, I guess some of it too is just you and I are, because I thought you and I were more on the same page on this. I guess we're not. You and I have, I guess, also just different experiences now, where like I don't have groups that want to go to the theater with me. Like when we do movie parties, it's here. Like everybody comes to my house. They don't want to go to a theater.
Yeah, I'm not talking about my own personal experience. Although I did go see the Phantom of the Opera in the theater a weekend ago, and it was with some friends, and it was really fun. But
Yeah.
I'm not
But I
talking
like
about
going to
myself.
old
I'm just talking
movies in the
about for
theater in a
like
way I don't like to go to new ones. Is part of
yeah,
it too.
well, and I'm just talking about for like the future of youth and stuff. I'm not necessarily talking about for myself, but we also have very different lives. I don't go watch a bunch of bad things because I have a YouTube channel that I have to watch them for. So I don't have that experience very often. Like I don't.
Okay, but most things that come in the theater now are not great. At least, like, even if I was just going to like go to movies that I wanted to see, I'm disappointed more often than I'm happy.
Okay, I just haven't had that experience, so I don't know. I usually go to things that either I think I'm really gonna like, or have pretty good reviews. I don't know. It's just a happenstance, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, well, I might be completely off in left field on this, but I just think the world's changing, and you're not going to be able to force it to not change. But I don't want I don't want the art to suffer for it, because that doesn't have to happen. I just think that we can have our cake and eat it too with this. I think things can still go to the theater. You're not going to have as many of them, and there's no way around that because of a simple supply and demand thing. And also, and I'm not trying to argue with you, DJ, but I also, and again, you're probably gonna think of me as very cynical when I say this, but there are other parts of my personal like childhood experiences that are the experience that's already gone, that my kids have no chance at participating in. I don't need them to have exactly my childhood. They're not going to anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need them to, like, my kids are not going to grow up wanting to go to the movie theater with their friends. There's other things that they'd rather be doing. And, like, I know that. Like that generation, they're not movie theater goers. They're not going to do that, a lot of them. My kids are not going to collect comics and want to go to the comic shop every week. Those days are behind us. My kids are not going to get together with their friends and play couch co-op video games. They're going to get on their tablets and they're going to play multiplayer, not even in the same house. Or if they are in the same room, they're going to hardly talk to each other because they're all going to have their heads stuck on a tablet. There's nothing you and I can do about that.
Yeah, but we can still be sad about it.
Well, and I am somewhat sad about it, but I'm just saying that, like, I think guys like Nolan and Spielberg need to understand that there's a, whether it's progress or not, maybe it's not, but like there's an evolution happening, and
oh, absolutely, yeah.
And artists have to get smart about it instead of just lamenting that they can't get their movies in a movie theater. That's not going to change. It's going to keep happening.
Yeah, obviously there was a huge, like when television was invented, there was a big, that hurt theaters a ton. But they made it through, so hopefully they can make it through this too. We'll see. We'll still be doing this show when it all shakes out. So we'll finally come out on the other end of it.
Well, I didn't mean to be horribly negative about it.
No, you're not negative. You're just sharing your opinion.
Let's go ahead and get the super chats, I suppose.
All right, let's see what we got. Goofster. Oh, here we go. Goofster, $5. Thoughts on Sonic Frontiers? I'm actually enjoying the open world. Not a fan of the 2D levels much, though.
I haven't gotten to the 2D levels yet. I just bought it today, and so like I said, it's Freddy's birthday. I was trying to decide whether or not I was going to get it. I've already got all of Freddy's birthday presents purchased, and we're going to do that on Saturday, but then I thought he's probably going to want to play this. I've been seeing reviews that are more positive than I expected, and so I thought I'll go grab it and surprise him, and we'll play it together. And we sat down for 20 minutes, and I was, like I said earlier, really enjoying what I played of it so far. And then I looked at the clock and realized that I thought it was Friday all day long, and I had to take my son to dance, and we were late leaving the house.
Did you burst in saying, sorry, we're late. I was playing Sonic.
No, but I had him apologize for me. He was like 15 minutes late, I guess. But anyway, so I haven't gotten to play very much of it, and that's why I'm going to do some of that for After Dark tonight if everything goes according to plan. But I really like the melancholy atmosphere of it so far. The initial gameplay and teasers really made it look like the last Zelda game, and I thought it was going to be like a ripoff of that in the same way that Colors was kind of a ripoff of Mario Galaxy. And it seems like so far it's maybe just learned the right lessons from that. Like it's making it all about tone and atmosphere, not as much gameplay, which is cool. And so far it's got a sound that's a little bit more its own. It doesn't seem like they just ripped off a thing. It seems almost like it was inspired by that game before it's trying to jump on some kind of a bandwagon. Breath of the Wild is what I'm talking about. And right away it makes it really clear that it's actually a Sonic game and it's not just transplant Sonic in a totally different kind of world and pretend like it's not Sonic like some 3D games have also done in the past. So like right away it opens up and throws you into a linear kind of Green Hill sort of level, and then you get transported into this world where I guess Sonic was in a digital world and now he's gone into something more akin to the real world or something. I'm not totally sure what's going on yet, but it's making a big deal out of, don't worry, the feel of it is different, but it's still Sonic, it's still that universe, and it's still populated with characters from that franchise. And anyway, I'm excited about it so far. I've looked at some reviews. There are some things that don't sound great about it. It's not going to be perfect, but the controls are wonderful so far. I don't know why it took 25 years, DJ, but it's finally what I think a 2D or a 3D Sonic should control like. And
yeah, I'm surprised I'm hearing you say so many positive things about a 3D Sonic. I never thought I'd hear that. So that's good. I'm so happy that they made one that you finally like.
So far, I mean, I've only played 20 minutes of it, but it looks like it's going to be good. It looks like it's going to be fun. I like how fast it is. It's weird because there's a mode, DJ, that basically it has like a slow and a fast mode. And everything I've heard is said, don't play the slower mode. They make it like, because there's easy, medium, and hard. So there's a difficulty level. But then after that, and I forget what they call it, but there's a mode that's like for people that aren't used to playing Sonic games, i.e., we're really overcompensating for the fact that the point of Sonic is to go fast. And so if you don't want to like run too quick and you're afraid you're going to lose control, play this version in an open world Sonic game where it's going to take you forever to get from point A to point B. I looked at a little bit of gameplay from that and I was like, yeah, I'm not playing it like that. And like I wouldn't anyway, but or start that way. But it's very strange it has that mode. But yeah, I'm excited to sink my teeth into it and keep going, and I'm glad I went ahead and got it on day one. Because it's getting decent reviews, I figured it wouldn't go down in price very quickly, because a lot of the time, Sonic games will lose their value really quickly, and if you just wait 4 or 5 months, you can get it for, half price or better, and this one might not have that, so I think I'll be ultimately vindicated for spending, paying full price on day one.
Sweet. Well, that makes me happy. I'm glad that's working out for you.
Yeah.
Another one from Goofster123, $5. Also, on the request last night, I think you skipped a couple of us on the list when announcing next week. Not to be that person, just an observation.
No, I didn't. So I guess I'll just mention this really quick. So I sent out a list to Patreon of all the regular requests that I had, but what was not on the list I gave you guys is a couple of people that have some outside of Patreon prepaid requests that I haven't gotten to yet. I've got to sneak those in some places, and that's what that is. So John Early has paid for several, at least 3 other requests that were outside of Patreon, and I've got to put those in someplace. And I just gave you guys the Patreon ones. Because I didn't think to put that in that list, but I have it in another part of that document. I didn't give you guys the whole document, so no, I did not skip anybody.
Okay, he has it all, guys. Do not fret.
I'm putting everybody off a week, but I didn't skip anybody. So sorry about that. I just didn't think to put that in the list that I gave you guys. Because honestly, when I sent you that list, I forgot about that part of it. It's in a different part of that document. I went, I haven't done a request for him in a while. It's probably his turn, so I had to pick a week for that. So that's why I did that.
Okay.
Inside Baseball. It's so interesting to everyone involved, I'm sure. If you'd like to make a request for the request, it's the $15 tier on Patreon, and you can get a comic request or a movie request or a pilot for a TV show. And we've been doing that weekly for a long time now, and it's been going really, really well. And I want to thank everybody who has stuck around at that tier and stayed in the rotation, because you certainly don't have to do that, but man, it helps a lot. And it's been really wonderful that's been as successful as it has, because I didn't expect that. There's always a 4-month wait at least, and anyway, it's really neat that folks enjoy those. It's part of the reason that I've let them go as long as I have, where it's gotten very podcasty, and we'll talk for a full hour much of the time about whatever the request is, because we've got guys there that could just pledge for the 1 month and then jump out, that stay on that tier. So I'm trying to give them as much bang for their buck as humanly possible, because I know and they know they don't have to do that, and I certainly don't take it for granted.
Absolutely. I really like this next super chat from Jar Jar Ed, $5. Marvel films that are still that bad.
Oh, sure.
And we'll see.
Let's talk about them.
Yeah, let's see if we agree with all these.
Okay, sure.
Blade Trinity, every Fantastic Four.
Hold on.
Ghost
so Blade
Rider.
Trinity, yes. The Fantastic Four movies, none of them are especially good. No. Okay, go ahead.
I don't think the first one's that bad, though. If it's fun, then it's fine.
I think that movie probably holds up better than I give it credit for. But like the issues that I have with that, I've always had with it. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's a good movie, but I wouldn't call it all caps that bad.
No, I don't.
With the rest of these, I could still pop that one in with some friends and probably.
Silver Surfer's pretty bad.
Yeah, I can't watch that one. But the first one, I've always much preferred the first one than the second one. So he's got every Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man 3, X-Men Origins Wolverine, and Punisher Warzone.
Well, I wanted to try to hit each of them as you went, but I guess I'm not going to do that.
Oh, sorry. Ghost Rider, yeah, Ghost Rider. Not much merit there to go back to.
No, it doesn't hold up great. I liked it better when it came out, I guess, a little bit, but
it was just cool visuals when it came out.
Yeah, but it has some of the blandest, most nothing villains in anything.
Oh, absolutely. It's up there with Elektra. Those two are rough. But just seeing Ghost Rider realized on screen pretty decently for 2007 was fun when it came out.
But he had to have an origin for every piece of his costume, and that was stupid. It's a lot of weird, counterintuitive choices. Eva Mendes is really whatever. Like,
yeah, she's fine. I don't think she had anything to work with. She's just like girlfriend from the past. I don't think it's her.
Well, what's funny is I like her better in The Spirit. Everybody hates that movie, but I think she's good there. Like, I've liked her in things, but
yeah, absolutely. Spider-Man 3. Yeah, I don't even know why anyone would go back to Spider-Man 3.
Oh, don't say that. We're gonna have people coming out of the woodwork at us again. There's a whole contingency of people that have reevaluated that movie, and yeah, I don't get it either. But no, that's a massive step down. I'll go as far as to say that's a bigger chasm between for a third movie in a trilogy made by the same team. Bigger chasm than Dark Knight Rises. Like, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know what do you even get out of Spider-Man 3? It's so melodramatic. It's so
let's not open this can of worms again, man. Because people are gonna tell you, by God, they're gonna, and they're gonna tell you how much better the editor's cut is.
Yeah, that wasn't
which
like
did not change enough.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, X-Men Origins Wolverine. We can all agree, right? Terrible.
Yeah. That one I think more of us can probably agree on. Yep, that's rough. That's definitely the worst of those until you get to Apocalypse. And then all bets are off. And I didn't think that for the longest time until I did a rewind on Apocalypse, and good Lord. We've been saying Clockwork Orange a lot, but that's what that was like. Especially once I saw the commentary and I was like, oh my God, Singer's out of his mind. It's just out of his mind. I don't like to...
See, I don't even agree with that. Mutali says the only cool things in Spider-Man 3 are action and visuals. The action is so lame in that one. It's like Peter fighting out of costume with a guy on a snowboard, and then they fight out of costume again in a house. And it's like, there's nothing interesting. Like, he fights Sandman in a sewer, and you can't see anything, and the black suit looks awful. I don't even agree with that. Anyway.
Yeah, the only place I'll agree with him on is I do think the out of costume fight or the out of mask fight is it no it is Peter Parker out of costume, but then the whole stupid New Goblin thing. When he's when like he loses his the engagement ring and he keeps trying to grab it, it's a really ambitious fight. Like, yeah, it's silly because that suit is stupid and everything, but trying to do that kind of, like, I think it's really well storyboarded, and trying to do that kind of action where you have to do quite a bit of CG to even make some of it work out of costume. It looked better than it had any right to. Like, I was pretty impressed with that. There's stuff in the fight that I think is dumb, but it's just on a technical level, it's kind of impressive. So I will give it that. But
yeah, when you have your main hero turned villain like flip and it goes bong when he hits his head on the freaking metal bar like a I don't even know, like a Roadrunner.
Blame the sound department.
It's ridiculous.
No, it is ridiculous. But DJ, that's what it would sound like.
It's just the way they cut it. It's like doop, 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 bong, and then it's just silent, and you hear him running up. It's hilarious. Anyway, Punisher Warzone. I've never seen that, so I can't speak to that one.
It's kind of fun. It's not a good movie, but it's never going to be like a totally bottom of the barrel movie to me. I also don't have any reason to ever go back to that. But
yeah,
was that the last one on the list?
That's the last one.
Okay.
So yeah, so I guess we agree with his list.
Yeah, for the most part.
Those were all pre-MCU, except for like the last Fantastic Four movie. So that's interesting. He doesn't put any of the MCU movies on the list because I do.
Well, I don't think he was making like a top 10 list or like these are the only ones. It seems like for some reason he wanted to stay in that era.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I'm not sure why, but yeah.
I agree. Jar Jar Ed, give us a sequel to this super chat.
Oh, no, he will too. He'll come back with ones that are still as good as we always thought they were, and then we won't entirely agree with that list because that's probably impossible. But
yeah, people are attacking me in the comments now.
No, I told you. Just leave it well enough alone.
Hey,
that is a debate I don't even want to do. Like, I'm sorry, I can't take that movie seriously.
Yeah.
And if you do and if you like it, that's great. But yeah, almost nothing about that movie works to me. And
yeah, you just needed to see it 10 more years, 10 years earlier, Cap, and then you'd love it.
Oh, is that what it is? Was it too post my time? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that seems to be the common denominator. The Welder's Sidekick, $5. Whoa! The Welder has a sidekick.
Hey, you have a sidekick now.
Unbeknownst to me. Make yourself known, sir. Oh, he looks like a baby, too. He's an infant in the photo.
Was he in the Breaking Bad movie? Because I think that guy had, like, people that he worked with, kind of,
this
is or something.
It's an infant with, like, goggles that look like they're from the Tim Burton Willy Wonka and the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory scene where they do the Mike TV.
Are you making this up, or does he have a picture?
No, he has a picture.
Oh, that's amazing.
With a white shirt on and Willy Wonka goggles.
Wow. Yeah, that's
my
crazy.
Sidekick. Yeah, give me your info. We can make this happen. Where were you when I need some editing done for my videos? Mutale.
I don't do editing. I just hurt people.
The Welder's Sidekick, $5. I love Alamo, and some chains do screenings more in line with their style.
Yeah.
Think if more theaters followed their model, they might have more success.
No, me too. I mean, it's super classy. They're really creative about what they put in front of the movie, and you can watch new movies there. But Alamo is and we lost the Alamo Drafthouse here, which hurts my feelings. Man, it sucks. But part of the thing too is a lot of those really cool, like retro theaters closed down during COVID. And it's hard to imagine how long it'll be and what it would take for some of those to open back up again, or for some new ones to show up. But yeah, those are mostly known for showing older movies. And like I said, I much prefer that experience. In the last year or two, DJ, I've probably seen as many old movies in the theater as I have new ones. Like, I don't need to see brand new stuff in the theater. I'd much rather go see Jaws or Wrath of Khan or...
Yeah. That is a lot of my viewing too.
Especially stuff that I either wasn't around for or my parents didn't take me and I never forgave them.
Yeah, totally.
You know, that kind of thing. Like, I'm gonna throw my dad under the bus. Speaking of Spielberg and his quote, throwing my friends under the bus, I'm gonna throw my dad under the bus for a minute. When the first X-Men movie came out, DJ, I begged my dad to take me. I was in, I don't know, like 8th or 9th grade, and it was I was spending the summer with him. And for some reason, we just never got around to it. He said he was going to take me, never got around to take me. So that's the only X-Men movie I didn't see in the theater. And they'll never re-release that in the theater. That's not coming back.
Probably not.
Maybe X2, but the first X-Men movie's never coming. It's not even like it didn't perform and it doesn't have a good reputation. I just don't think anybody... It's so weird. It was the first one. I don't think anybody remembers X-Men. I mean, they do, but you know what I mean?
I saw that movie in the theater. I was probably too young.
Nobody with the movie theater is going to think to re-release that movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I was 8 when that movie came out, and I remember seeing it in the theater. And that should have been one I mentioned last show where that kind of scarred me. That was really, really, really dark. I don't think my dad was expecting the X-Men movie to be that dark, to open with a Holocaust scene and like a sex scene with Rogue.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, what are we doing? What is this?
Oh my God, it's like a real movie.
But yeah, that was
let me say something real quick. At the risk of digging my grave farther and going back in time. Oh my God, she's back. I don't know if I made myself clear enough earlier if I was very articulate with the point I was trying to make about the inevitability of what's happening with movie theaters. Again, I certainly don't want to see theaters go away entirely, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't have that option. I want people to have that option. I want to have that option for things I want to go see, the way they're intended, but. What I'm saying is, I don't think that the I don't think that that's the. I'm trying to figure out how exactly to put this because I just don't feel like I made it clear enough earlier. I don't think that should be the bread and butter anymore, because it isn't. You know what I mean? Like for a lot of things, I just feel like there's got to be another way to measure it. It's not. What I'm saying is it's not fair to smaller movies that if you don't do well enough at the box office, it's like your movie didn't perform. Like that's dumb.
Yeah,
because a lot of people will see it if they find out about it and it's good. They just won't go to a theater to see it. Again, simple supply and demand. If people aren't going to leave their house to go see it, but it is available, why is that the way we're measuring the success of it?
Yeah, but I guess to Spielberg's point, like, now that we've built this habit of them just coming out on streaming services, is it going to be possible to build a new habit of like, okay, it's coming out day and date, but you have to pay, $14 for it or whatever?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's kind of his point is like, well, yeah, now that we've got this far, it's going to be hard to dig back out of this hole, this streaming hole for like the pay-per-view thing that you were talking about.
Well, I guess, but it's not like everything after 2021 has gone that way. Even HBO's not doing that anymore. Like, how many things come out day and date that if you already are paying for a streaming service, you can just stay home and watch? There's a few things on Peacock every now and again. I don't know of very many movies you can do that with right now.
Yeah, Peacock is a mystery. How the heck is Peacock running?
I don't know.
Who pays for Peacock? I say that. I pay for Peacock. It's like $5 though. It's like super cheap, and there's no... They just drop stuff on there for free. Like, I don't know what's going on. Peacock is some rich... fat cat is just personally funding Peacock, apparently.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, I'm sort of with you, but I think I can alleviate some of the mystery, DJ, by saying that Peacock had it right in a lot of ways in the first place, and is doing what a lot of streaming services probably should have done before, which is offer a free version with limited content that's ad-supported. Because that gets you on the ground floor and makes you start looking at it instead of, like, I've said this before about Peacock. In some ways, I think that is the best streaming service there is now, which is so weird because I did not care about that when it came out. But because there was a movie that I wanted to watch that was there and I could watch it for free, I went and checked it out. And That service is very consumer friendly, and that is a like kind of dirty word and a philosophy that a lot of just big corporations in general don't appreciate and don't feel the need to do anymore. So what most streaming services do is uh, subscription things in general is they'll give you like a trial run, 7 days, 30 days, which feels like a scam. It's not them actually giving you something, it's them hoping that you'll forget that you did that, so you'll have to pay for it the next month rolling over. Most of them have gotten into this thing now, DJ, where if you try to unsubscribe, they go, why don't you just take a pause? Have you seen this? Where they go, you can set it up so that you don't pay for it for 14 days or for 30 days or 45 days, and you can cancel any time. You can shut your whole thing down, but as soon as that trial period ends, it's not a trial, but you know what I mean. As soon as that pause period ends, they're going to start billing you again because they're hoping that you forget about it. What Peacock does is it says, forget the stupid trial thing. We'll be ad revenue supported, so we're making money when you watch, just like YouTube does and lots of other services. And then we have a paid subscription if you like what we're doing, with more things that you can buy and that doesn't make you pay for ads. Why don't they all do that? It's just really consumer friendly. Say it again.
Yeah, we have HBO Max, the ad revenue supported version.
But that's not what I'm talking about. Peacock is the only service that does that, where there is a free version that is ad supported that has a certain amount of content, and you can use it for a while, and then if you want to get on a tier that you pay for, there's one with ads, there's one without ads. They should all do that. HBO Max should give you a limited amount of content that you can try out without paying for it. That's just ad supported. Disney should do this. They should all do that, because it got me in the ground floor, and I paid for it for a few months because they kept having things I needed to watch for request, and then I could watch it there, and I didn't have to rent it. So like, I never thought I'd pay for Peacock, and I never would have if I hadn't tried it like that, and I wouldn't have tried it if it was just a 30-day trial. That's my point. That's how you get people in on the ground floor. Why doesn't every service do that?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have the numbers. I don't know if it's working for Peacock or not. I don't know if Peacock's doing well.
No, I don't either, and I'm with you. I do kind of wonder how they survive with some of the things that they're doing, and they maybe won't be able to forever. But I'm anecdotal evidence, but it worked on me. I don't know, like, and partly just because it seemed really consumer friendly, and that was refreshing to me, and it was easy to give them my money, because whether they give a crap about me or not, they created the illusion that they did. You know what I mean? And so it was easier to give them my money, because part of it was that, and part of it was, and I've mentioned this before, when you watch a movie on Peacock, all the ads are up front. It'll be like a minute and a half to 3 minutes of ads, however much it is, and then they don't interrupt your movie through the duration. Roku is kind of genius with how they're handling the Weird Al thing, where they're putting up a free movie that a lot of people are watching who have never would have thought to bother downloading the Roku app. And the Roku app is free, but they actually have some cool content there, and it's all ad supported. And I never would have thought to look at it. I've been using their live viewing. They have free live TV there, and there's a few channels that are kind of cool, and I've been using it. I watch game shows, and they have a whole channel 24 hours a day of nothing but Bob Barker era Price is Right. Oh, wow. And I had actually been going to old crappy quality YouTube videos to watch old Bob Barker. They're showing all of it in order 24 hours a day. I could just turn it on and have it on in the background, and I never would have found that if it wasn't for the Weird Al movie. So that's kind of genius advertising. The only thing I don't like about it is when you watch that movie, when you watch the Weird Al movie, they do interrupt it 5 or 6 times with commercials. And there's no way to make it not do that unless you pay for, maybe Roku has a premium subscription, I don't know, but like that's not cool. They're getting everybody to watch this movie, and we're all having to, like, they should have put them all up front.
Yeah, and I don't think Peacock does that anymore either, because I watched a movie on Peacock in October, in The Company of Wolves, and I was so frustrated by the ads that kept breaking.
But I just watched something there like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they still did it. Are you still paying for it?
Yeah,
Okay, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
super frustrating. I'm about to cancel HBO Max again because commercials drive me absolutely insane. We just got it. We just got it. Just the ad version, just so we could, because my wife wanted to watch House of Dragon.
Hey, I don't mean to give credit where it's not due, but
But yeah,
if they're doing
ads.
that, then that's not cool. But
I don't know how people do ads. It drives me insane. Let me see. Where are we? Whoosh. Whoa, so many super chats.
my goodness. Okay. Well, let's try to. And we're already 10 past an hour. My apologies, guys. This has been an odd show, I'll admit. All right, good.
Mutale, what qualities make a movie rewatchable? Oh, interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the first thing that comes to mind is attention to detail. Where there's a lot of really thoughtful
Hmm.
stuff in the background and the foreground, not in the George Lucas way of let's just like gum up the screen with way too many spaceships and
Hey, look,
aliens.
there's nice negative space back there. Let's quick fill it with a jiggly alien.
Yeah, not that, but just here's a living and breathing world that feels real, and and there's um natural things happening, and interesting foreshadowing and connections and references to things in the movie that maybe won't be significant until you have all the information. And so one of the things that makes a movie most rewatchable is when I start looking at it a second time, because I know where it's all going, I start picking up on breadcrumbs that maybe subconsciously were informing things for me first time around that now consciously I'm aware of, and that's a lot of fun. And then I guess some of it is just experiences that don't get old. When you get action movies that are so thrilling that even though you know what's coming, the ride is worth it, or scenes that hit you in the same emotional place every time you see it. Like, you can never have the same experience you did the first time you saw a thing, but it might still hit you in the same place in your heart or your brain or whatever. There's few scenes in movies that no matter how much I see them, they still get me in a place. And my go-to example these days has been the funeral scene at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I tear up every time, and I can't explain why. And I've seen it probably 10 times now, and I know it's coming, and I'm waiting for it. And when I did the rewind on that a few weeks ago, I consciously tried to make myself not do that when I got to that scene, and it still happened. It was like involuntary. It's crazy. I have that with the first 15 minutes of Up. There's just something that's kind of elemental about it that like I would have to probably go to a therapist to explain to you why it affects me the way it affects
That sounds
me.
like a good video. A therapist explains to Cap why he cries at the funeral scene in Guardians 2.
We do a Captain Logan show that's just like me ostensibly interviewing a therapist, but then it just goes the other way. Cap on the couch.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things, right? Like that's one reason. Obviously, if there's like a twist that makes it rewatchable, sometimes if it's done well. Obviously,
Sometimes a twist makes it not rewatchable.
True.
When it's all about that ending. But you're right. It's weird that it can happen that way.
Sometimes just being fun makes it rewatchable.
Yeah, and there's movies that it's about atmosphere before it's anything, and you don't.
Yeah. Every time I want to feel like in this certain mood, I put this movie on, right?
Yeah, or you put it on to get in that mood, where you're not gonna feel that way just by thinking about it. You have to experience it again. That's part of the reason that I listen to scores sometimes with certain movies is because it'll put me in a particular headspace that only watching that movie or listening to it can do to me. And the score's not always enough necessarily to do that, but.
All right, great question, Mutali. We got another one from Mutali. Why do most movie posters suck now?
Boy, that's a really great question. I think it's because, and when you say, see, I got to be careful now because I get what DJ was talking about earlier. When we say most movies, right, we're talking about big mainstream stuff that's keeping movie theaters open. I'm sure there are smaller films and stuff in genres that I'm not covering on the channel that have perfectly good artwork for their posters and their Blu-ray covers, but I think it's because we're afraid to take any kind of risks at all anymore, DJ. So there's this attempt at uniformity to everything, where it's like we're trying to find the mathematical formula that means success. So our movies have to sound a certain way, and they have to be whatever's in vogue right now. They've got to be directed a certain way. They've got to be the pacing of it has to be a certain way. And I think that can go all the way down to the way they're advertised with trailers and the way they're sold with print artwork. And I hate the Marvel thing and the Star Wars thing as much as a lot of you guys that complain about it. It's obnoxious. It's like everything has to be Star Wars, like the original Star Wars. It's all about just have either. I don't even think any of them are painted anymore, DJ. I think it's like take.
Oh no, it's all photos.
Take photos and make them look like they're sort of painted, and then have all these poses that are disjointed and unrelated, and then put them, arrange them on a poster, and like sometimes some of them look better than others. Like I like the Black Panther one, okay, as far as those go, but then you'll see a really cool like steelbook release or some kind of special physical version that'll get a really cool piece of like painted artwork, and you're like, that's how you should have sold the movie in the first place. Where has this been? And it's only for special stuff now.
Yeah, it's basically the same reason any art sucks, because it just gets too corporate, and you got designed by committee. I deal with this every single day at work. You got people in the room that aren't designers, aren't artists, and they just say, well, this has to be there, this has to be there. You have to have Zendaya here, you have to have Sandman coming out of her chest, you have to have Green Goblin up here, you have to have Doc Ock's arms somewhere, you have to have Daredevil because people know he's there now, so throw him in there. You have to have Happy because he's in the movie for 10 minutes. Like you have to have it all there, and the designer's just like, well, crap, I'm not going to try on this. Like, well, why would I? Like,
well, and even if he does, what's he got to work with? He's been told what it has to look like.
Yeah, like
too many caveats.
I literally deal with that every day at work. It's like, okay, if you're going to completely control everything I do, then I'm just going to do what you want and take my name off of it. Like, I'm not going to be proud of this work. I have no say in it. Why am I even getting paid? Anyway,
I'm sorry, man.
This is getting too real.
Yeah, I don't envy that at all. But obviously, you understand this better than anybody here, probably.
Yeah, and I'm not completely unsympathetic to it. It's for good reason. I mean, there's a ton of money. The theaters are losing a ton of money on these movies, so they feel like they have to step in and put their marketing hat on and say, hey, it's working for Marvel, so let's do it for everything. So I understand where it comes from.
No,
it's just unfortunate.
But here's the thing: when you say, the problem is, I think a lot of these like executives and corporate heads think they know why things that they're in charge of are successful when they don't necessarily have any idea. Like, just because it's almost like working backwards from a conclusion, right? It's like, so we sold this movie with this advertising and it made X number of dollars. Sometimes you can probably track it and have a pretty good sense that it had anything to do with the advertising campaign, and sometimes it might just be because of word of mouth and the movie was that good, or that might be enough of the box office that the way the poster was arranged wouldn't have mattered that much. I'm not sure how much that ever actually affects box office.
Well, now
it's hard to say.
It's part of a bigger issue, right? It is kind of
synergy.
This is kind of inevitable because so many movies are coming out. Now, back in the day, it wasn't that big of a deal what the poster was like. You can just have a cool image because there's only so many movies that people are going to see. Oh, this is the big movie from the summer. I'm going to go see this. Now the technology is advanced. Movies are cheaper to make. Way more movies are coming out. And so you can't just market it to the community of consumers. We have, and also the internet's breaking everyone up into everyone has their own group. There's a million different demographics now, and you have to appeal to everyone at the same time, which makes it kind of appeal to no one because it's just an ugly Photoshop gross mess. But I don't know. It's kind of how it had to be, I guess. It's really sad. We're back in sad territory, specifically for me, because I wish we had cool posters. But we do have some. But I agree. They are few and far between, Vitaly. Anyway, next one
All
from
right.
Mutale. When comparing I guess he meant more. It says when comparing two or movies and deciding which is better, do you care more about which has the better story and structure or which is more entertaining?
Well,
It
so there's
depends.
there's two conversations happening, right? And
Yeah.
this is an argument I've made a million times, but I'll say it once again. There's the critical part of your brain that says, I recognize what is effective in the storytelling or in this as a piece of artwork, especially in uh, how it conforms to uh, like modern convention or chooses not to, and when that was the right call and that's working, right? So you're looking at it on an academic level. Is this as a I hate to use the word, as objectively as possible, as by taking your bias out of it as possible? I may not have enjoyed this movie. I recognize that it's accomplishing what it's set out to accomplish, and and I get why it's resonating with other people. And then there is the part of your brain that is the animal part of your brain, the instinctual part of your brain that says, I don't want to have a conversation about this. I just didn't like it. Like, I don't have to explain it to you. You can tell me till you're blue in the face how effective this is at narrative. I didn't have a good time watching it. I don't want to think about it anymore. I'm done. That's the instinctual part of your brain, right? So better is like, and better and worse are like two of the most subjective concepts that you can possibly throw at a person. Is if you see a movie as better than another movie, you have to look at it from either of those two brains, and you also have to recognize that the instinctual part of your brain can also affect that other part of your brain, and maybe even sort of vice versa, right? Where, like, if you're used to attacking things on an academic level, it overrides that instinctual part of your brain a little bit, and you go, if I knew how to turn my brain off, I might have enjoyed that, but I was too distracted by all the stuff that I know wasn't working on paper. You see what I'm saying? And by the same token, you'd have the instinctual part of your brain that goes, I really enjoyed this, and is fighting with the academic part of your brain that goes, I don't feel like I'm supposed to, though. You know what I mean? So they can start to kind of coalesce and merge with each other a little bit. But by and large, I kind of look at it with the two sides, and then it's about the conversation we're having. So if we're talking about how effective a piece is, better means which one is, in my mind anyway, which one is most accomplishing what it set out to accomplish, and that was worth doing in the first place. And then the other argument to have is that was better in that I would sit through that again. And this other thing, I would not sit through again. So that one was better. So I have had those two comparisons with a movie that is almost objectively, on every level, better than the other thing I'm looking at as far as academically, like how it's put together. But it's not as fun as that other thing. I'd rather sit through that. You know?
Yeah. Next one, TH1, $5. What is your favorite comic issue? It can be part of a run or arc, but has to be one issue. Great show tonight. Can't wait for tomorrow's spoiler cast. You best.
Thanks, man. No, that's gonna be crazy. I don't know why we're doing it that way, but it'll be nuts. Yeah, I've been asked this before, and it's always hard to pick one, especially because
That's like being asked your favorite song.
Yeah,
it's like impossible.
It's impossible, and I've been out of the comic reading game a little bit for a while. Like I haven't been doing as much on the channel lately, and the stuff that I have been reading has been, arcs and things. I haven't been hitting a lot of single issues. So my one of my go-tos for this has always been the Russian roulette issue of Daredevil from the Frank Miller run. I'm trying to think of things that I've never brought up before, but I don't know that I'm going to manage that. When I was a kid, I And I've gone back to this issue, and it doesn't hold up great, but I'm still kind of, nostalgia for it. I still have a soft spot for it in my heart. But there's an Action Comics annual that's kind of that I think is an Elseworlds, or it's like an Elseworlds, where Superman becomes president of the United States, and that one's really fun. A lot of my favorite single issues are kind of out of continuity things, and sort of what if or Elseworlds sorts of issues. In more modern comics, one of my favorite issues is the date night issue in Tom King's Batman run. Even though ultimately that whole thing falls apart and gets god awful, I still really, really like that issue. But yeah, I can't give you just one. If you put a gun to my head, I'll say the Russian roulette issue, just because it's topical at the point where there's a gun to my head. But I'm not sure what the actual true answer is. Anyway, moving right along.
Well, you don't want to give the guy any ideas who has the gun to your head.
That's true.
All right.
Well, it would have been nice for him to at least take some of the bullets out, I guess.
Yeah, increase your chances. Mutale, would you rather hang out with Goldblum's Grandmaster on Sakaar or Crow's Zeus on Olympus?
Oh,
also,
man. That's some torture right there. I'm going to go with the Grandmaster thing just so that I don't have to listen to that accent. I think that's probably the answer. Because that's just Goldblum being a sadistic psychopath, but he's still Goldblum, so he's going to occasionally say something that's kind of amusing, and I can imagine that he's not a horrible person, because I like Goldblum and I've seen him in other things, even if he's just being a walking meme. I don't know what in the world is going on with Zeus and that Greek accent and all of that. Like, I wanted to leave the theater 20 seconds into that, so yeah, I'm going to pick Goldblum.
I still haven't seen that, and I won't, as long as I can.
Will if we go back to Marvel.
As long as I can. But you have to deal with Goldblum's basically like a 12-year-old in that, and he's like, oh, Asgard. Like, okay, dude, get out of my face. You're an idiot. Like, I can't deal with. Oh, everyone's 12-year-old in that movie.
I kind of think you still would pick him over the Zeus thing, though.
Yeah, I have to see it. I don't know. We'll see. When you Clockwork Orange my eyes open and force me to watch.
We're making that reference way too much lately.
Because we've lost our minds. And then the second part of that one is also...
this show is dire. I don't know what's happened here.
Also, who's the worst actor?
Next week's going to be interesting when I'm at DJ's place, because I don't even know if we're friends anymore after the show. Like,
what? Why would we be friends? Just because we disagree on stuff?
No,
we disagree on lots of things.
No, because it went to such a sad like dour place really quickly. It's like, we just don't even want to be around each other anymore after this experience.
We'll just be sitting listening to Hello Darkness, My Old Friend the whole time here, just in depressed mode.
That's called The Sound of Silence. Excuse me.
That's called The Sound of Sad Affleck now.
You can't even hardly work it into the meter, and the sound of Sad Affleck.
There you go. You can make it work. We got another half of that one. Also, who's the worst actor that could play Beta Ray Bill in MCU?
The worst actor?
Oh, only wrong answers only, guys, in the chat.
Brandon Grimm.
He's not an actor. Get out of here.
Oh, it has to be an actor? I guess you did say actor. But, I don't know. When I think of the worst actors ever, DJ, they're all not actors. I mean, think about it. Like, they're people that got paid to act. That doesn't make them actors. The worst actor I've ever seen is Shaquille O'Neal. He's not an actor, but he got paid like one, so it still counts. But Brandon's never been paid to be an actor, so I digress.
Shaquille O'Neal, at his age now, playing Beta Ray Bill.
That's perfect, and I'm glad that I said it so that you could make that my answer, so I don't have to think about anybody credible. But I mean, that is the definitive answer, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of someone who's like potentially possible, but would just be horrendous. I mean, he cast Melissa McCarthy, didn't he, in his movie?
She has a bit part in that.
Okay.
Are we talking about Love and Thunder?
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah, she's got a cameo during the obligatory play scene, because they do that whole thing again. She shows up in that. Mutale
says Adam Sandler is Beta Ray Bill.
I just think it's funny that we have to do like bad fan casting. Like, I'm not good at regular fan casting. Now it's like, okay, fan cast.
Maybe you're good at this.
Yeah,
I mean, you can't. There's no such thing as wrong answers. I mean, you gotta.
that's true. So, like, how much easier is it to
James
throw out,
Corden.
how much easier is it to throw out somebody that's a really bad idea? That you're never going to throw out a person and then everybody goes, well, no, actually, I could see that.
I think the worst answer that we can all agree on is Chris Hemsworth. If they wanted to do like a fun thing where they have him play both roles, I'm like, no.
Oh no, no! You know what they'll do? It'll be Liam Hemsworth.
Oh no.
That's what they'll do.
Or it'll be the third Hemsworth that nobody ever talks about.
Oh, there's a third one?
There's a third. I think there's actually four, but there's definitely another Hemsworth. Wow. Anyway,
they've become like the what was that? What was that family of brothers that people always like to make fun of? That starts with a B. I can't think of it. It's on the tip of my tongue right now.
I have no idea what you're talking about. I thought you were going to go to the Skarsgårds because there's like 4 Skarsgårds brothers too.
I didn't even know that. Okay.
Senior Sticks, $5.
Hi.
Film will never not be a thing, Cap. You still have time to instill them with the class of theaters and comic shops as they are family friendly. I think he's talking about your children when you mentioned.
Well, yeah, sure, but again, I'm anecdotal. I mean, like, I can, and when I say like my kids won't, like, I can raise them with it now, but like, they're never gonna be as into it as I was. I don't think. I mean, like. Again, I don't mean to be cynical about it, and obviously, and to give up or whatever. Like, you can raise your kids any way you want to, and my son Jason especially is into lots of the same things I am, and knows about some of my favorite things better than I do now. Jason's becoming quite the scholar with They Might Be Giants. Like, he's been sending me demos I didn't know about. Like, the first song that the Giants ever recorded, I thought I knew what it was, and then Jason sent it to me, and I was like, where did this come from? And, like, John Linnell was in a band before Team EG, and Jason found live recordings of them. I had never heard that before. So it's not like I'm just throwing in the towel and going, my kids are not going to like all the same things I do, but, like, they're more into, digital entertainment and stuff. Like, they're not going to be probably collectors in the same way I am. And if they got into the same kind of stuff I'm into, they'd have to pay a lot more anyway. You know what I mean? Like, some of it's just not practical, in a way that in the way that it once was. And then some of it too is I just don't take them to comic shops as much anymore because I don't like a lot of new comics, and so I don't buy them regularly. Like, we'll occasionally go visit a comic shop, but it's just everything's changing. Some of it's circumstantial, some of it's stuff that you can't avoid. And again, like the couch co-op thing with video games, I've got all my old systems, and Jason is very into, like, old school, what he likes to call ancient technology, and a lot of his favorite stuff predates even things that I played, and he likes handhelds. I didn't grow up with handhelds, so he is probably going to grow up and want to do more of the couch co-op thing, but then he also. Still. Yeah,
you've done a great job with that with your kids.
Oh, thanks, man. But at the same time, it's not like I've kept them away from the tablet and phone game culture entirely. Like, some of that stuff is fine, and they like it, and Freddie's into Roblox, and he's got a friend that he plays that with, and he's probably not going to be as into the couch co-op thing as he gets older. And also, everybody's different. Some of it also ends up just being a personality thing. Mm-hmm. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. People read there.
No, I was just saying you did a really good job getting your kids used to retro games as they were young, as I'm trying to do with older films and black and white stuff. And because my boss at work always complains about how his kids will only play like the latest system and like can't even look at retro stuff. I think it looks absolutely ridiculous and laugh at it.
Some of that's just educating your kids. Like, this is not entirely a new phenomenon. When I was growing up, I watched a lot of TV that was that predated, my time by 20, 30, 40 years. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my friends didn't know or care about any of that stuff. And I remember growing up, watching reruns on daytime TV of old sitcoms and things and thinking it's going to be, and just seeing the writing on the wall. And like, I was always looking 10, 20 years ahead, DJ. And I remember going, I'm gonna hit a point where nobody knows what the Flintstones is, and I don't know if I want to live in that world. You know, like I'm gonna hit a point where everybody, and not that I'm even a big Flintstones fan, but just
Yeah, I can live in a world without the Flintstones, but
it's a
Scooby-Doo.
cultural touchstone thing. It's weird to imagine that people won't know what that is, you know, and then you get blindsided by it sometimes when it becomes a joke culturally. Like I went to. This is gonna sound random. In 2009. I think is when that came out. I went and saw Zombieland, and I felt old when there's the kid, the I don't know 13, 14-year-old girl in Zombieland who doesn't know what Ghostbusters is and is at Bill Murray's house and is being shown Ghostbusters for the first time, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess we have a generation now that would see that as like old and outmoded and wouldn't understand why anybody cares about it, and you'd have to force them to sit down and watch that unless you were just raised on it. Like my kids don't see Back to the Future as old-fashioned because they've grown up on it. They like it, you know, and and Ghostbusters that way, and Star Trek's that way, and Star Wars is that way. It's weird the things that because this is all, and again, I almost sound cynical when I say this, but this is another thing where commercialism has kind of is kind of consumed us too much, I think, DJ. The things that we think of as outdated, and then the things that we don't, simply because Hollywood has tried to continue capitalizing on them, so they try to make it relevant again. You know what I mean? So, like, Star Wars was a movie that came out in 1977, but you have a whole generation of kids that grew up like it was a new movie. But there's all these other things from right around that same time period that they would never bother to look at because it's old. It's weird. It's like just because it was in their face, Star Wars is not old to them, even though it is old. You know what I mean?
You mean that really old movie?
But see, that's why that line didn't make a lot of sense, because even that generation of kids has been raised to see Star Wars as like current and hip or whatever, going all the way back, as if it wasn't made in the 70s.
I don't know. Maybe Peter was raised like me and didn't find out about Star Wars till I was like an adult, and he had only seen bits and pieces of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Aunt May was not a big movie person.
My point is, we get the culture gets manipulated by commercialism to decide what is relevant and what isn't, and that ain't fair.
I think but Star Wars is more even. It's also because it was so influential and such a huge landmark in the film industry and special effects and everything. I mean, everything after that was influenced by it, so it stuck around a little bit because of that. I don't know if it was just them. If it was a crappy movie and they were just trying to push it to try to commercialize, I don't think it would have lasted the test of time as much.
Well, no, of course it wouldn't. But I'm just using that as an obvious example. We do this with anything that we do a decades later sequel to, where we try to act like it's like hip and cool now, even though it might be a 30, 40, 50-year-old movie. And because and like I've complained about this a lot with music and stuff too, where you'll get young people who think that a thing is pointless and not worth looking at just because it didn't come out last Tuesday. And then Hollywood will go, oh, this thing matters now, and then you'll have a bunch of people that suddenly care about it just because something official came out and it's the new hip thing that everybody's going and looking at. It's silly. That's not how quality works.
No, those people should talk to Zaslav about quality.
Exactly.
Mutale, do you think Scorsese is jealous of Joker's success?
Oh, I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
I don't think he's jealous. I mean, I don't think anyone sells movies like Scorsese does, but I guess you mean, is he like upset that it's doing well because it copied his movies? Is that what he's trying to say?
Well, and because they tried to get him to make that movie and he passed on it. And I think his name's even on it as a producer, is it not?
I don't know.
I thought so. I'm forgetting now. It's been a little while. But yeah, I wouldn't think he'd be jealous so much as maybe disappointed if he saw that movie and he, because I don't know if he even saw it. If he saw that and thought it was too derivative and then went, it kind of sucks that movies like this are doing so well. Maybe in his mind, because I don't want to try to analyze the guy too much. I don't know what his thoughts would be, but just based on things he said about comic movies and stuff, he might think a thing like this is only as popular as it is because of the brand recognition with it, and there are movies that are better than this movie that can't get traction. So he might be. I could see him being disappointed about that movie's success based on other things that he's made or other people have made that he'd like to see. That he would think are deserving of the kind of recognition that Joker got. I don't know that jealousy would be exactly the right word, though.
Yeah, I don't think that's the right word. But we all have this. Like, obviously,
Yeah.
like if we don't like a movie and it gets really popular, everyone likes it, then we're like, I wish that wasn't as popular as it was because I didn't like it and I don't want it to continue, like the Thor franchise and stuff like that. So
Yeah, or if you make a thing, if you know you're really good at a thing and you don't have a platform, you can't get noticed. And if only you did, you know that your thing would probably be popular. But there's this other thing that is mediocre in comparison, but for whatever factors, people noticed that and went and looked at it. Then that's frustrating. And it's hard not to be jealous of that, if jealousy is even the right word. But it's not fair, and when things aren't fair, we tend to be jealous. We tend to feel bad about it. So, I don't want to get into the semantics of it, but I could see him going, "This isn't the way the universe should have gone." You know what I mean? However he feels about it personally.
Senior Sticks, does anyone hold hope for Sony vs. Scorpion film?
Was that announced, or do you mean, or are you asking if people really want that to be a thing?
Yeah, is anyone holding out hope for that Sony vs. Scorpion film?
Do you think there's anybody sitting around going, boy, I sure hope Sonyverse makes this villain that will never fight Spider-Man into a movie?
Well, and especially if you can't do Matt Gargan without J. Jonah Jameson, like if you can't use J. Jonah Jameson, don't even do that, because that's his whole, like, what is that movie without J. Jonah Jameson?
Yeah. So no, I don't know that anyone is even talking about that. But like, I don't think that got announced. If it did, I didn't hear about it.
No, I mean there was that little after credit scene in Homecoming, but
I don't think
that's been so long ago at this point. I don't think it matters.
Yeah, even folks, and like, I don't want to speak for anybody, put words in anybody's mouths, but even people that really like the Venom movies, I don't know how invested anybody is yet in that as like a cohesive world, where it's like, man, I sure hope Sony does X character next. I haven't heard, even people that like the Venom movies, I've not heard anybody say that with anybody. It's like, man, I sure hope they adapted this person. The only thing before Venom came out was, Carnage.
Carnage,
and then
yeah.
It was clear that they were doing Carnage, so whatever. Like, there might be something tangentially related to Venom that people want to see in 3. But as far as characters getting their own thing, I don't know that anybody's going, oh man, I sure hope they make this. I think people are doing that with Spider-Verse.
Although we say that, but like
And Spider-Man, just in general.
there is a way you could do a Matt Gargan movie, because Matt Gargan gets the symbiote from Eddie, and then he could get the symbiote for a while. He could be bad guy Venom, and then Eddie gets the symbiote back and turns into, I mean, not Eddie, but Flash Thompson get the symbiote. You could do stuff in the Sonyverse.
Okay, so what you're talking about is completely unrealistic, and you're just not paying attention. Okay, DJ, like, that's ridiculous. Because the first thing is, you're suggesting that they might make a movie where Venom actually has a bad guy that's not just another symbiote, and that's not gonna happen. And the other thing,
he will be a
is
symbiote.
the other thing is, I can't even believe this, DJ. You're suggesting
I'm
that
not
they
suggesting
this is so.
anything.
This is. Okay, I guess I have to say I'm joking. You're suggesting that they make a movie where they introduce a character and then spin him off? They're not gonna do that.
No, it would be the Matt Gargan Scorpion movie first, and
That's
then
exactly right.
He gets the Venom symbiote from him.
It's so much more intuitive, DJ, to do an origin story for the freaking Scorpion and then let him get the symbiote. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it would be.
No, you're absolutely right. The Scorpion makes plenty of sense to put in a Venom movie. And then you could spin it off, and then you could spin them off. And then you know what you could do? You could have multiple Venom franchises at the same time.
Yeah, you've got Monster Venom, and then you just do a Toxin. You get Toxin. Because Carnage was just in the movie, so you make Toxin from those two. All kinds of stuff. The symbiote verse.
You move Toxin over to the MCU, and you can call it the Toxin Avenger.
Oh my goodness, what's
Yeah, I
happening?
said it.
Jar Jar Ed. I
I
see
can't believe you
people.
said that. That was really funny.
Hey, I don't put anything past Sony at this
Oh, I don't
point.
either.
I'm thinking like Sony execs. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get in their headspace.
No, see, you're not enough though, because you thought they might put him in a movie before he gets his own movie. That's not gonna happen.
Oh man, I see people whine about the MCU on Twitter when they have no idea how good they have it. I have a rare moderate opinion on MCU Phase 4 known as meh. So this is Jar Jar Ed, kind of a follow-up to his movies that are still that bad
Yeah.
from earlier.
Well, I think it's fair to be invested in a thing and then be disappointed when it feels like it's losing its way. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of folks with MCU. So it's everything is relative, right? It's really easy to go, well, look how unsophisticated or formulaic or uninspired these particular movies were, and if you compare. And I don't even know if I would totally agree with you on some of the things we might be talking about. Not having a specific example, you look at any. Let's forget about the Disney Plus shows for a minute and just say like any of the recent MCU movies, like No Way Home or Eternals or Love and Thunder or what have you. And although like my reviews for each of those movies are very, very different reviews, so that's maybe a silly example to bring up the three of those. But I'm just saying, like, it would be really easy to go back and cherry pick in the early 2000s, maybe the exception of Love and Thunder, the movies that are like god awful and that make those movies look like Phase 1 Marvel movies. But if we're comparing apples to apples, I totally get why people are looking at, and me included in some instances, some of the current MCU fare and going, it's not what it was, and it's falling apart, and it's kind of awful now. You don't have to. If your standard is the worst thing you've ever seen, then a lot of things are going to look better than maybe they are. But I think when and I don't mean to take up for people too much, because I think they're. I don't necessarily even agree with everybody that is as angry about some current MCU movies as they things as they are. I think it's hit and miss before it's anything, and I think Disney Plus is overall just really disappointing. And I'm with you, like the meh thing. I also don't think that that's an unpopular opinion either. I'm hearing that a lot of, but for a lot of people, for MCU, meh is as bad because it held to a lot of it for folks held to a particular level of quality for so long, and you're kind of hoping that you're not waiting for the other shoe to drop, and then it feels like it has. It's hard to climb back up from that. It's a lot like what's happened with Pixar, where like I don't think Pixar by and large, and I haven't seen the last couple of their movies, but I don't think by and large they're just bad, but they're not what they were. And when you compare apples to apples, it feels worse than it is when you compare it to other not good thing. You know what I mean? Like mediocre compared to in the same franchise or maybe by the same people compared to the greatness it once was. It feels worse than it is. It's just everything's relative.
It's all relative with Captain Logan. Jar Jar Ed, another one. I shall request more Ultraman from Captain Logan. Jokey voice. Ha 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 ha. Cough cough. Squeak voice.
I reserve the right not to review it though. Is the thing.
Oh,
like we've sampled some of that. I don't know that I really want to do a lot more of that, just because there's not a ton of interest.
I need more stage direction. I don't know what you mean by jokey voice and squeak voice.
It would depend a little bit on where you decided to go with that. Like I'm starting to get a little bit more specific in, or I don't want to take liberties, I guess, but I'm starting to get a little bit more specific, and sometimes asking folks not to just keep going to the same well with things, just to keep some variety up. And the point of request is to sample stuff, and try some new things and review some things that I haven't talked about before, not to try to like turn me into an expert on a thing. Even if I really like it, I don't necessarily want to like. And I've let some folks do this before, where they'll pick the the same thing several times in a row. I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing that. At least case by case. Like, don't hold me to anything, but I will. I reserve the right to not do that.
Hot Soup says at least the early 2000s superhero movies could be so spectacularly bad that it was kind of amazing. Most of the modern Marvel movies are just kind of boring.
Yeah,
they're just boring.
No, that's fair.
Yeah, they're definitely more studio mandated, just assembly line films, which can be boring at worst. Whereas if you just let an artist go 100% do what they want to do and it's bad, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And that can be fun in its own way. There's nothing fun about I don't care when I've seen this before.
Yeah. The Welder Sidekick back again, $5. Thoughts on the Indiana Jones?
I wonder who that is.
I don't know. It's got to be
somebody we know, probably.
Yeah, they had to have changed their name. Let us know, baby Wonka goggles man. Thoughts on the Indiana Jones Disney Plus series being a prequel about Abner Ravenwood, also over under on CG Chadwick Boseman making an appearance in Black Panther 2.
Well, I don't want to.
No way.
Yeah, I hope you're just asking what we would think if that happened. If anybody knows anything about that movie, please don't spoil anything. And I think I want to say they came out.
Anyway, they could do that.
I want to say they came out and said they wouldn't do that at one point. But yeah, I mean. I'm gonna say right away if that happens, that's a bad idea, and there would be kind of a big outcry. And
yeah, he's asking over or under, like what are our wagers that it might happen. So he doesn't know yet.
Sorry, I didn't understand what that meant. I don't
think they would ever do that. If you're gonna make a whole movie about a tribute, don't do that gimmicky thing that everybody hates. That would be embarrassing.
Okay, so you say that, but you didn't see Ghostbusters Afterlife, and people embraced that, and I don't understand why they did, but it's the same thing, where it's like, we made too much of that movie a tribute to Harold Ramis, and then you get to the end, and we did CG Harold Ramis, and I thought it was embarrassing, but people accepted it. They wouldn't necessarily with this, because he died more recently, and it's a different situation because of the cultural phenomenon of it. And all of that. Like, the whole reason they wouldn't recast him is because of this, I think, misguided notion that it's somehow disrespectful to the actor, that, like, he created that and made it what it was, and so we can't recast it. I just fundamentally don't agree with that. I can see waiting, but, like, I fundamentally don't agree with that. But if that was the whole reason you didn't do it, and then you did a CG version of him in the movie for any amount of time at all, that's crazy talk. I'm with you. But,
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But the reason I brought up Ghostbusters is because there's recent precedent for it. I get why you asked the question, because I can see why people would think that maybe they'd be crazy enough to go there, because it happened recently and was successful to some degree.
And because he could also be like a ghost.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have to look 100% real like when they try to do Star Wars stuff.
Well, yeah, but there's a really easy out to do it with Black Panther too, which is they've got like the afterlife realm. Like they can have somebody. All they have to do is do a scene where they have somebody take the heart-shaped herb and then meet him in the meet him on the plane with the aurora borealis, and now it's CG Chadwick Boseman, and like we get a pass because he's dead, and it's the same thing. He's a ghost. It's exactly the same thing. Like no, they could. I don't think they're going to, but I'm just saying there's as much of an out for it there. Like Ancestral Plane, that's what it was called. They could just do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying you could play it off as a ghost.
Oh, I thought you were saying
that's why I brought
the
whole
reason
thing
they got away with it with Ghostbusters was because it was a ghost. And
no, that's why I said you could do the same thing. You could be a ghost.
Yeah,
because
sorry, I didn't get what
the character is dead.
But what was the other part of that?
The other part was
the
Disney Plus Indiana Jones series being a prequel about Abner Ravenwood.
I had only heard that a project had been announced. I didn't hear the premise. So yeah, I don't have any thoughts about that at the moment, except
who is Abner Ravenwood?
Yeah, I honestly don't remember right off because I don't know a lot about that franchise. Like I've seen those movies, but I don't know them super well, and it's been a while.
So it's a
Uh,
prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark.
yeah. My assumption initially was that it would be another like young Indiana Jones thing, and
It's about the mentor of Indiana Jones.
yeah,
He'll be the protagonist. That's who Abner is.
I don't know how many people are going to care about that, and it just seems like more um, throwing stuff at the wall. You know what I mean? Like
Gotta have Disney
been,
Plus content, yeah.
Disney has been oversaturating the market, and any kind of concept, whether it sounds founded and like a thing that people would be excited about, they're going to do because they have the rights to it, and maybe somebody will watch it. But yeah, we don't need to fill in a bunch of blanks in Indiana Jones history. I still say the only thing to do with that, if you're going to do anything, is finally recast it and keep it in the same era that it was and let it be like Indiana Jones. But I guess that's never going to happen because I guess Harrison Ford, DJ, is going to be like Chadwick Boseman, where no one else can play that role, but that amusingly, he can be used to recast other roles that are not as iconic. Okay, that's where we're at. DJ, how many more super chats do we have, man?
About 5.
Oh my goodness, really? Let's try to blow through them. We've got 5 minutes left in the show if it went 2 hours, and I've got to wrap up because I've got to get set up for After Dark. And I'm hoping to do gameplay footage tonight, and I'm gonna have to kind of reset my everything to make that work. So let's try to finish up as quickly as we can.
All right, Sam Productions, $5. If you could write an academic paper on any geeky subject, what would it be?
Wow.
Broad.
Say again.
Broad.
Quite broad. No, I'm sorry. I think you had a one-word answer for a minute.
I would write it on the concept of broadness. Any geeky subject.
Well, the easiest thing for me, of course, is just go to something I know really well. So...
89.
Well, I was just going to say something on, like, influences from Star Trek on, like, the rest of storytelling and pop culture. Like, not the whole technology thing, but just like how different does the television landscape and the movie landscape look if that never happens. Somebody asked a question a few months ago that I've been endlessly fascinated with, and I keep thinking about making a video on, DJ, which is what would, and I tried to answer it in a show, but I liked it so much I wanted to do a whole video on it, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But the question was, what if Star Wars came first? And like that would be a really interesting paper to write. Like, what if Star Wars is in 1966 and is a television show instead of a movie? What does the world look like after that? And then if I was writing about just the history of Star Trek itself, I would probably do something on because there's a lot of, you know, obviously there's tons of scholarship when it comes to the making of Star Trek and how all that stuff came together, and there's a lot of really interesting stuff, and there's a lot of really crazy, juicy stuff in the 60s and in the 80s and beyond. But I would love to write something on all of the places where Star Trek almost ended or failed, and how insane it is that it kept coming back. I mean, not so crazy now because everything under the sun gets remade or gets a decades later sequel. But like the fact that TOS ever got a third season, and the fact that Phase 2 ended up turning into Star Trek the Motion Picture, and if that hadn't happened, you probably wouldn't have, like, if that had gone to series, you probably wouldn't have gotten a film franchise the way you did, and then you never get TNG. What happens if TNG gets canceled at the end of season 3 when it looks like maybe it's going to, et cetera, et cetera. Like, again, endlessly fascinating. So, one of those two things.
Jar Jar Ed, why fight your brain when you could acknowledge that you might have enjoyed your kind of trash movie? Spider-Man 3's popularity is like The Room almost.
Well, I just didn't enjoy that on any level, is the thing. Like, that's not a matter of fighting my brain. Like, that's a place where my instinct and my academic brain are lined up entirely.
Yeah, I had the same thing. But that's interesting. He says it's like The Room because I don't think it is. I would
I don't either.
expect that Spider-Man 3 would have kind of a Batman and Robin reappraisal, right? Where it's so
And it
goofy
doesn't.
and
People
but it
take it
doesn't.
seriously. People
Yeah.
buy it. It's not so bad or it's good or like it's preposterous so it's enjoyable. I hear a lot of no, look at it again, it makes sense, it works, it's like good dramatic storytelling, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Yeah, I would think because Daniverse in the comments in the chat was talking about how it's goofy and it's got such good memes that come from it, so it's fun, and that's what I would think reputation it would have, but it doesn't. It's not like a Batman and Robin thing.
No,
It's
and it does
like
have those memes, but a lot of the people making those are either in our camp who don't like it and are making fun of it, or are doing that affectionately, where there are
yeah,
those
because they
silly
love it.
things, but they still. But yeah, because I mean, like we all make fun of like Green Goblin lines from the first movie, but like that's a good movie, So like
If you say so. Oh no, I'm gonna get him to come after me again. Let's move on. Vitale, Liam Hemsworth will play Balder the Brave.
is that like a thing we know or?
I think he's just because we cast him
Oh, I
as
see. I see.
earlier. We cast him as the other
I
guy.
just didn't know what he was talking about. Okay.
Balder the Brave, Liam Hemsworth. I don't know. Maybe that
No,
would
I don't
be.
think anybody that looks like Thor should play anybody that isn't related to Thor.
Yeah, that would be very weird. Has that happened? I'm trying to think of a major superhero thing where they're like their brother or sibling played someone.
That wasn't related to them.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's an interesting thought.
The closest thing I can think of is that weird thing in Smallville with the
Oh yes,
with
that's
the Ashmores.
so weird.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, he's back and he's not an evil guy trying to kill us. He's Jimmy.
He's just Jimmy Olsen. He looks exactly like the kid that got Clark's powers and tried to kill everyone. Yeah.
Well,
Okay, we've got to wrap up.
We
guys.
can't we can't discriminate against twins. We have to hire them. Josh Galisano, $5. What band would you two have score a Marvel or DC superhero movie, and which character? Ooh. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Bands, that's hard. I don't listen to a lot of bands.
I'm thinking, because there's a lot of different directions I could go for this.
You would have They Might Be Giants score a Clock King Sonyverse style villain movie.
I would have the band Garbage score a Catwoman sequel. Oh wait. I would love to see, and when you say score, do you mean like making an original score or using pre-existing incidental music?
I would have Eminem score an entire Venom movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all of it.
It'd be a musical. It'd be like an opera.
This is maybe on the nose, but it could be cool. You do a Spider-Man movie, whether it's an MCU or a brand new thing, probably a brand new thing, and you do a new version of Green Goblin, and you have the entire movie scored by Smashing Pumpkins.
Or Jack-o'-lantern. Do Jack-o'-lantern as the villain of a Spider-Man film.
Or even Hobgoblin. There's lots of possibilities with pumpkins.
Demogoblin.
Yeah.
Just do a goblin. How have we not done like a goblin team? Sony, with all the weird stuff you're trying. They're doing like a Madam Web female team-up movie.
Good call.
Do a goblin
yeah.
movie.
Or Metallica does Power Rangers.
All right, last one.
Yeah.
Great
Thank you guys,
question.
by the way, so much for the support tonight.
Yeah, that's Josh. Josh is I have a reason why that's on his mind because he's been putting together these Spotify playlists for for superheroes individually, and he's been sharing them on the Discord. They're really cool.
That's cool.
Jar Jar Ed, $10. The problem with Cavill leaving The Witcher is he's the only one left in the show to care about the source material. The show's writers hate the books and games, and it shows, which frustrates fans.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that. I got no dog in that fight. I don't know anything about that franchise whatsoever, and I think it makes sense for Cavill's sanity and not wasting his time that he left that show because he's not happy with the story direction and doesn't feel like he's making the thing he signed up to make. So You know, when you say the problem with his leaving is he's the only person that cares about the source material, like, but if the people writing the show don't care, it doesn't matter if an actor does. Like, it's not going to be good, or it's not going to be what folks want. I mean, I can't speak to the quality of it. I've not watched it.
Mm-hmm. And it's not good for Liam Hemsworth, who's taken his place. Everyone's gonna hate him.
Yeah, no, that'll make it one more season and get canceled, right? Like, I would think.
I don't know how that's gonna work. I actually watched like the first episode, but I never got into it.
It's just unfortunate when, well, I'm going to say this two ways. It's unfortunate when people in charge of a project don't have reverence for source material. I guess, except for the rare case, I can't think of a good example of this where somebody takes an initial idea and is inspired by that to make something wholly different that is good and works, but it's just disappointing for fans because it's not the thing that they know. Like, sometimes you have to separate that because it might still be worth existing on its own, but it's just kind of unfortunate that it was based on source material in the first place, I suppose. Like, that can happen. I guess my go-to example for that has always been The Mask, which, like, is not interested in the source material, but it's not great source material. So I'm sure there were some people that were disappointed that was a that was a comedy movie that was aimed at families and not a hard R revenge thriller, but it was good, and it put that property on the map. The difference is there wasn't a huge Mask fan base in a way there is with Witcher. So I mean, yeah, it's hard to compare these things.
Yeah. Well, that is all they wrote.
That's all she wrote. Well, thanks
Yes,
a lot, guys. We sure appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't mean to be too sad and dark and broody this evening, but I just kind of went that way, I guess, with some of the things we were talking about. Like I always say, I'm just calling it like I'm seeing it, and
that's all you can do. You're only one person.
Yeah, I may have been off base in some of my ideas with keeping movie culture alive toward the beginning. I just think that we're kind of I think some of us are kind of clinging to the past a little bit, and it's unfortunate the way things are changing to some degree. But I hesitate to say like fully embrace it, because not all change is good change. But at the same time, you got to pick your battles, and it's not always a good idea to try to force things to entirely not change either, especially with where the movie theater thing is going. At the same time, DJ, we didn't talk about this. I also don't, and this is part of why I was suggesting that maybe streaming services won't ultimately be the answer, because we keep talking about this. We also keep hearing about how none of them are all that profitable. So I mean, it's really weird, like if that's ultimately the direction everything is going, I guess it means we're about to get to a place where nobody can make any money.
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm more interested in. I'm more interested in seeing what happens with streaming services and how that all shakes out than what happens to theaters. Because streaming services was supposed to be the new big thing, and everyone jumped on board, and it doesn't seem to be panning out. So
exactly, but that doesn't mean that there's going to be suddenly more of a demand for things to go to the theater, which is why I think that more just on-demand a la carte might ultimately end up being the way to go. And then there's also, and this is maybe an elephant, DJ, that we should have talked about earlier, there's also the fear that we're in the same place that we got to with music, where we're going to get to where people just aren't willing to pay for things. You know what I mean? We're like, they're going to want to see movies, they're just not going to want to pay any money to see them. They can see them at home. They can, if they can stream them for free, they will. If they can find a way to do that.
Streaming killed the record, so
yeah,
maybe it'll kill the theater. Can we be
sure
too?
That's not happening with movies? I don't think we can. I just don't think you can be sure of anything, DJ.
No, I can't. I'm constant. That's the constant state of never being sure of anything. That's just my default state, and I've resigned myself to that at this point, and I'm happy. Blissfully ignorant.
Folks, earlier, once again, I was just spitballing and throwing out whatever was coming to mind. Feel free to argue with me in the comments. You're likely right. Let me know what you think, and we're gonna go ahead and move on. I'm gonna come back in about 15 minutes for an After Dark. I've got to get some technology set up, so it might be a little bit longer than normal. Bear with me. Patreon.com/Geekvolution if you want to hang out with us. We'll try to make it lighter than this was, and we're gonna read bad Sonic fan fiction, and I'm gonna play some Sonic, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I hope to see you there. And in the meantime, don't forget to pop in if you're so inclined, especially if you saw the new Weird Al movie tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. Might be a little bit after 10. We're going to be cutting things a little bit close because we're doing a screening right before. But pop in for that. And in the meantime, I was Captain Logan, and this was DJ Martin. I just smacked myself. Oh, man.
DJ beat yourself up.
Martinez.
That was me. And support your local movie theater store.
Or don't if you don't want to have to step on sticky popcorn. Bye, everybody.